Let's move over to some other news. South Africa's largest motoring festival is underway this weekend at the Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit in Johannesburg. The motor show brings together key industry players, motoring enthusiasts and consumers shopping for a new ride. With 50 pit doors available, there's been enthusiastic support from vehicle manufacturers and importers. eNCA anchor Gareth Edwards joins us now live from Kyalami. Gareth, I must say I'm very jealous of your assignment this afternoon, but maybe just tell us how it's going.
Good afternoon, Heidi. Welcome back again to the 2022 Festival of Motoring. I've always wondered why reporters do this, but when you've got cars racing around at over 250 k's an hour, it's very, very loud here. The weather guards very much on our side. Early on, we were hearing from the festival organizers. Now we found our way down into the pits, but I think I'm extremely lucky, Heidi, because while it seems most people don't get access to stand next to cars that I'm about to talk about, we've been very, very lucky to be invited by Julian van der Walt, professional racing car driver. And I'll tell you what, Julian, come on and have a chat to me here as well. So first of all, what's it like being at the festival? Post-COVID, I'm hearing some 30,000 people, and you've been driving around a bit. How's the vibe?
Oh, it's absolutely incredible here. I mean, just to see all these people back into one place, one event, it's absolutely amazing. And I'm really happy to see the kind of turnout we got here this weekend. 30,000 guys, that's amazing. That's a lot of people.
It really is, and I know that this morning you've been out in your car and you're going out again tomorrow. This is all part of it's being called the F1 demo because these are almost F1 cars, or are they F1 cars? But this is your actual vehicle.
So we do have an F1 car. We've got the 1989 Minardi, but this one that I'm driving, this is an A1 GP. So it's actually based off of the Ferrari 2004 F1 chassis. It's got a Ferrari V8, similar to F1 V8, just slightly detuned, but in essence, it's an F1 chassis with the F1 engine, so it's about as close as we're going to get.
And the noise of this must be astonishing, because I saw some social media posts that while those of us who watch Formula One now are used to the hybrid era, and yes, they're noisy, but you cannot compare this to either the V8s or what you're driving. It's a different sound.
No, it's completely different. You drive down the pits here and the concrete vibrates, the guys are standing on. We've had such awesome feedback on these cars. People love them just to have the noise. F1 cars of today, they've had a lot of complaints of being too quiet with the turbos. So to get something like this is just amazing.
So let's then talk a little bit about Formula One, not Ferrari. This is a Ferrari chassis. Formula One. So this is about as close to real life as I can talk to someone that's been around Kyalami in a car like this. With all this talk of F1, hopefully, fingers crossed, coming to Kyalami, how realistic is it for someone who does this for a living?
I think let's start with F1 coming to Kyalami. I think this event alone proves that we've got the infrastructure, we've got the crowds to come and bring Formula One here. Everybody is a motorsport fanatic. So bringing F1 back into Kyalami and into South Africa will be just such a boost for the local, not only the local motorsport industry, but the local tourism industry and just South Africa as a whole. We've hosted World Cups for FIFA. Why can't we host the Formula One race?
Yeah. And the kind of situation when we were hearing that Stefano Domenicali, Formula One CEO, was out here, we're not going to get into the infrastructure of the grandstands, but there were some concerns about some of the corners, the runoff areas. As a driver, would you agree with that sentiment? Is there a bit of work that needs to be done? Because F1's all about safety, first and foremost, for you guys. What, in your opinion, would need to change?
I think, and it's something I agree with Formula One, the biggest thing is the new technology and the barriers. They're called Tech Pro barriers, which they have in Formula One. When there's an impact, it just takes so much more energy out of the impact than the older type barriers. So doing stuff like that will be vital to having F1 back. And it's completely, seeing the accidents that have happened with Grosjean a few years ago, you can't go against any safety measures that the FIA want to bring in.
We had that big spin out, I think it was last season when we were in, it was Hamilton taking on Verstappen, and even though he had a long runoff, I forget the track, and sent him into the barriers, and that runoff was a good 200 meters, and he went in at 60 Gs, and luckily they had the safety there.
Yeah, so that was, again, a lot of that impact was taken out by the Tech Pro barrier. I think that was at Silverstone where Verstappen went into the barriers. Accidents happen in many ways. The car can start rolling, and then the gravel trap really doesn't slow down the speed. Then you want a sort of soft impact when the car lands into the barriers, which is again why I think they need to go with whatever the FIA decides in terms of safety measures, because they clearly know what they're doing. Look at the Halo when that came out. So many people were against it, but it saved 4, 5, 6 lives in Formula One over the years. So you really can't side against it.
And just a last question as well, because we have so many people coming here who are motorheads. You do this for a living. You get to live the dream. And this is always a ridiculous question, so go with me on this. How much quicker is this than, say, a Golf GTI on a track? I mean, just try and explain the forces you're dealing with around Kyalami. Because people have the simulator, they go, well, how hard can this be? Just take me into the cockpit.
So, when we hit the brake pedal on this, when you're in a Golf GTI and you brake, you're just kind of touching the brake pedal. I've got to hit this brake pedal with 110 kilograms of force on my left leg. So we're slowing down with 5 Gs, which is kind of what fighter pilots endure when they do a 5G turn. So the forces that go into the driver driving one of these cars is unbelievable. I can't really describe it because there's no other way to experience it or to describe it. You have to sit in the car and you have to feel it. The gear changes are ferocious. Your head smacks the back of the car. It's just everything about these cars is just absolutely ridiculous, and it's just wild.
I remember when they had I think it might have been the Ferrari or one of the Formula One two-seaters, where they took a couple of unlucky journos in the back of that, and the expression was that many of them said they couldn't breathe for the first few seconds because it's that hard it accelerates. As I say goodbye to you as well, I know you're going to be out in this again tomorrow about midday, so if you haven't gotten tickets, you still can. Come see Julian van der Walt take this around Kyalami as well. Very briefly, what's your rest of your season looking like?
Rest of the season we're racing locally in global touring cars, so we're challenging for the championship. For that it's going to be quite tight, 2 rounds to go. But in September I'm off to the UK to go do some single-seater racing there, which is going to be quite cool. We've got a World Championship event coming up in November also at Silverstone in the UK. So we've got a couple of cool races coming up, and hopefully it all goes well.
And I see there's a seat open at F1 Alpine. Are you gunning for it?
I wish.
Julian, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. All the best for tomorrow and the rest of the season. Julian van der Walt, what a beautiful car. It is essentially a Formula One car, and you can have your chance, Heidi, to come through and see this in action tomorrow. It's apparently the noise that this thing makes. This is in Kyalami in Midrand, obviously, and I'm pretty sure you could hear this all the way in the studio where you are over in Hyde Park tomorrow. So from the Festival of Motoring, for the moment, it's still continuing today and tomorrow. We're going to come back to you again a little bit later this afternoon. It's great fun, great weather. If you can get down here, come and do it.